Today's episode is brought to you by Blink YA and The Memory Thief, written by Lauren Mancy. I'm happy to share this young adult fantasy title because it's the Mocha Girls Read National Book Club's October Book of the Month. In the city of Craywick, memories reign. The power-obsessed ruler of the city, Madame, has cultivated a society where memories are currency. Citizens are divided by ability, and gifted individuals can take memories from others through touch as they please. 17-year-old Etta Lark is desperate to live outside of the corrupt culture, but grapples with the guilt of an accident that has left her mother bedridden in the city's asylum. When Madame threatens to put her mother up for auction, a Craywick practice in which a criminal's memories are sold to the highest bidder before being killed, Etta will do whatever it takes to save her. She sets out on a journey in which she faces startling attacks, unexpected romance, and above all, her past in order to set things right in her world. The Memory Thief is available now in hardcover, ebook, and audiobook from your favorite bookseller. Learn more by visiting mochagirlsread.com. Hey readers, welcome to the Nonfiction Shelf series here on the Shelf Addiction Podcast. I'm your host, Tamara Ford, and if you'd like to chat with me about the book reviewed in this episode, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Shelf Addiction, or in the Facebook group Shelf Addiction Official. This is the series where I feature one fiction title every month. If you enjoy nonfiction, you'll want to be in the loop with what I'll be reading next, and you can do that by subscribing to the Shelf Addiction newsletter. Before we get started, I want to share with you one of the ways to support Shelf Addiction. If you enjoy this show and the content that I produce, please share this podcast with someone that you know would enjoy it or on your favorite social media channel. Let's jump into it. In September, I completed Thick and Other Essays by Tressie McMillan Cottom. The audiobook was also narrated by the author. The book was published by The New Press January 8th, 2018 and comes in at 235 pages. The audiobook was published by Audible Studios March 12th, 2019. The unabridged version comes in at 4 hours and 50 minutes. I admit that this took me much longer than anticipated to finish. This is a 100% deviation from what I normally like to read. As you guys are familiar, if you are not new to my show, I read a lot of fiction. And this year especially, I've had an emphasis on doing one nonfiction title a month. And I mostly read for escapism. You know, dealing with these types of subjects that Tressie writes about is not an easy thing to consume. It's definitely intense. And as I like to mostly read for escapism, I wasn't looking forward to it. I deal with life as a Black woman every day, and sometimes reading about disparities is upsetting as I already live it. So in my case, I literally took this audiobook bit by bit, essay by essay, and I ended up spreading it out over the course of 5 weeks. Yes, I know. 5 weeks to consume 4 hours and 50 minutes is a lot of time. But I just could not sit and listen to this all in one bite. I'm sure some people can, but I could not. This book also happens to be the Book Riot Persist most recent book. Persist is their feminist book club. It really was coincidental. I actually picked up this book on an Audible daily special for $2.95. And because the price was so good, I had no other excuse not to read this book. I'd heard good things about it, and I wanted to find out for myself, and the perfect opportunity presented itself. This is a book full of essays on beauty, media, money, politics, and more. So if you don't know anything about the author, Tressie Cottom is highly educated. She's married. She has insurance. She's Black. She also was treated like she was incompetent. And she writes about that in her essays. She writes about her Blackness over everything. She writes about how society feels and thinks about Black women, plus size Black women, society at large versus Black women, basically. And she hits the nail on the head with these essays. Any women of color, especially Black women, can relate to at least some of the essays, if not all. I liked a lot of things about this audiobook. I liked that it was thought-provoking. I found that Tressie said a lot of the things on various topics that I found myself audibly agreeing with and nodding my head. I like that there are verifiable facts throughout the essay. Her research is clear by her copious footnotes and citations in the back of the book. As I listened to this on audiobook, I'd have to buy the print copy to read all of the footnotes. I also loved that she called out people that she felt were doing the wrong thing, and she backed up her statements with facts. I personally feel like this woman is fearless. She has no regard for backlash. She does not care. She wants to say what she thinks is right, and I support that. I also enjoyed that Tressie narrated her own book. She did a fabulous job with the narration, and while I do like these type of books in audiobook form so I can hear all of the feelings from the author, I think that she made her points very strongly without having all of the emotion that, comes along with the feelings of some of the topics that were being discussed. And I mean, literally, we had very upsetting stories from, things about how the medical industry, doctors and nurses treat Black women, misdiagnosing women, not listening to the pain that women express, especially Black women. Again, this woman is educated. She uses her words, okay? She can explain when something is wrong. And she shared a story in one of her essays where doctors and nurses treated her awfully. They did not listen to what she was saying. And in the end, they blamed her. They blamed her for not telling them she was in labor. So she did have a baby preterm, and the baby didn't survive, unfortunately. But the fact is, she didn't know she was in labor. She kept saying, I have this pain here. And because it didn't present in the way that they assumed it should, they stopped looking. They're like, there's nothing wrong with you. You ate something. It's indigestion or whatever. It was really, really horrible. And it really made me think back to the segment that John Oliver did about the disparities in medicine, and especially how Black women are treated. She gave some really startling facts about how Black women are 243% more likely to die from childbirth-related causes versus white women. I don't have kids, but this scares me. I think of mothers that I know, friends that I know, sisters that I have, and I wonder, did they all get the treatment at the level that they needed? Or even myself, when I think about going to a doctor or a hospital, or possibly in the future, you have to advocate for yourself, because unfortunately, right now, today, in the medical field, a lot of things happen. It's not good at all. And not every situation is bad. Obviously, this doesn't happen all of the time, obviously. But when things come up, you have to advocate for yourself. You have to advocate for your child. When it comes to medicine and education and every situation that you could come up against a wall because of the color of your skin. She even mentioned in this essay how Serena Williams had to use her own celebrity to push for a treatment that she needed because no one was listening. No one was listening. They have these crazy ideas that women have higher pain tolerance and have thicker skin and all this crazy stuff that makes no sense. And I find myself getting emotional right now as I'm even talking about it. And that is another kind of reason that I was kind of nervous to do this type of episode with this type of book, because code switching, guys, code switching, it's a real thing. And Black women, women of color, you know what I'm talking about. No one wants to come off as the angry Black woman, but this stuff makes me angry, and it is what it is. Definitely you will hear things throughout all of these essays that you have experienced in some way, shape, or form, or you know someone that has experienced something like what she's talking about in some way, shape, or form, or even things that you just heard about in society that has affected you personally. I do want to make sure that you know that there is a trigger warning for one of the essays. I believe it's the second to last essay. And it is a trigger warning for sexual assault and trauma. I believe the essay is called Black Girl Interrupted. This one hit home for me because I'm very upset by these guys getting away with crazy shit. Like, why are you able to rape women, assault women, and you just walk away? I don't understand it. In this essay, she kind of addresses, no, not kind of, she does address R. Kelly's situation, Charlemagne the God situation. And actually, I was not really familiar with Charlemagne. I've always heard that his show is wild. And every time I tried to tune in, I couldn't get past like 5 minutes. I just couldn't. It's just not my cup of tea. But I had no clue, like any of the details about him. She writes that he's bragged about beating a case against a 15-year-old. And I say beating a case in air quotes because this 15-year-old, accused him of being assaulted at one of his parties. What the hell is a 15-year-old doing at a grown man's party? Shameful. And I guess he's bragged about beating this case, and he's bragged about doing things that were inappropriate and considered assault to women. Now, again, I don't listen to his show. I don't watch him do interviews. I have not heard any of this firsthand, but this is what Tressie is writing about. And we all know the R. Kelly fiasco that's been going on. It's so sad to me that he got away with doing this for decades on top of decades. And only now are people really, I guess, ready to deal with the fact that he's a child molester and abusive. Like, it's insane. It blows my mind how people look the other way sometimes when it deals with Black girls. Black girls are treated differently, and that's something else she talks about in the essay. She talks about what would it take for a Black girl to actually be the victim. With so many things going on right now, especially the Netflix series Unbelievable that just came out. Those things happened to a white woman, okay? And they didn't believe her, and she was accused of lying. Just imagine what it is for a woman of color. That happened to her. This happens to women of color every day. And it's so sad. It breaks my heart. It really does. And like I said, all of these essays touched me in some type of way. It was heavy. It was a lot to unpack, and it was a lot to hear. But it is what it is. So that would be my biggest drawback of this essay is the serious subject matter. You really need to be in the right frame of mind to consume these essays, especially if you're sensitive to things. I do think that I'm a sensitive person when it comes to like these type of subjects because it just riles me up and I get really upset about it. But they do need to be discussed, and that is why I recommend that you listen to it. Not only if you enjoy essays, even if you're not a regular essay reader like myself, it's worth the read or listen. It's definitely worth it for women's book clubs. I think that this book will lend itself to some valuable and intense conversations that need to be had. We as women of color need to have these conversations with each other to stop some of the fiascos that are going on, like when it comes to stigma, as far as slut shaming and other things. We need to have that conversation amongst ourselves and stop it amongst ourselves. It's not just the men, it's society at large and how other women see other women, talk about other women, think about other women. It's all just so much. There's so much. And Tressie did an excellent job covering the gambit of situations that Black women have to deal with. I mean, from fixing yourself to not being treated fairly in the workplace, not being able to get a job in a certain arena because of the color of your skin, to some of the things that I just mentioned. There's just so much there. I rated this audiobook 4 out of 5 bookmarks. Again, I enjoyed it, even though it took me a long time to finish and a long time to digest and sort of figure out what I wanted to say. I enjoyed it and I recommend this, especially in 2019. This is something that we should be sharing with each other and starting a conversation and keeping that conversation going. So I'm going to end things there. I will catch you on the next episode. And if you only tune in for the Nonfiction Shelf series, I will see you next month. And until then, happy reading. Take care, everyone. If you enjoyed today's book chat episode and would like to show your support, there are a few things you can do. Head on over to Apple Podcasts and leave a positive 5-star review. You can follow me on Twitter at Shelf Addiction. Most importantly, you can share this podcast with friends and family that enjoy all things bookish, including author interviews. Thank you for listening, and until next time, happy reading.